Hello, friends. Hello, friends. A tradition unlike any other.
Oh, my goodness. In your life, have you seen anything like that?
There it is! Adam Scott, a life changer. Mashed potato!
Here it comes.
This is the 19th tee. Kieran Marsh, Nathan Judy, back with you, both in the branded apparel of the 19th tee as we get really revved up, Dreads, for what is undoubtedly the best week of the year. That might be a surprise to you and to our listeners who've been tuned into this podcast for the better part of 5 years. I have always been a man who's planted his flag staunchly at Augusta National, but I think as I age and mature, whether people think that's possible, I'm coming around to this being the best week of the year, Open Championship week.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I've been flying the flag since day one for this, and you weren't on the call with Micha the other day, and I asked him, whether it was the Masters or the Open, and he said undoubtedly it's the Open. So it was 2 against 1 because I was still throwing you into the Masters camp.
Wonderful. Well, two against 1 that's faltering, I think would be fair to say, and it could be certainly be 3-0 by the end of this week. You mentioned Micha. David Micheluzzi is the Micha to which you affectionately refer. David Micheluzzi forms a massive part of what is a big preview week for the 151st Open Championship at Royal Liverpool in Hoylake. We will cover it from a bunch of different angles this week on the 19th tee. Pleased to say that, as you've mentioned there, Drudes, you've had a good chat with Micha. We're going to roll that into tonight's episode alongside a discussion with Gary Lisbon. Keen listeners of this podcast will know that Gary's a return guest. He's one of the very best golf photographers in the business globally, and he's been delighting his followers on Instagram over the past week or so with snaps of a recent trip to Royal Liverpool itself. So good to get Gary's perspective as a man who spent a bit of time there capturing it through the lens. We're going to get the perspective from on the ground a little later in the week. Australian Golf Digest, Evan Priest, another good friend of this podcast, another return guest, will join us. I'm not sure if you've been following Ev's socials in the last week or so, Truce, but he's tagged on a little trip to the west of Ireland, playing some courses into Royal Liverpool at Hoylake this week. So an incredible 2-week span for one of the best in the business when it comes to Australian golf media. We'll chat to Ev from the ground a little later in the week. And of course, our regular preview as we do for each and every major. So plenty to get through, plenty of interesting content coming your way for this 151st Open Championship, Drudes. And what a way to kind of lead in. I think if you were to select the storylines coming out of the Scottish Open at the Renaissance Club, albeit I would have been absolutely thrilled for Robert McIntyre to win his National Open. To have Rory birdie the 17th and 18th holes, and with maybe one of the best shots we've seen him play in recent years with a 2-iron, his approach into 18 to secure that birdie putt for victory. It sets up an incredible storyline, given how close he went last year, ultimately falling short of Cameron Smith, given he has previously won the Open Championship at this golf course back in 2014. The stars are aligning for what I'm sure will be 5 days full of speculation around Rory's performance leading into Thursday night our time.
Oh, it was unbelievably impressive. Watched the most of the back nine and really had an opportunity on, I think it was either 15 or 16 to put himself one in front of Bob McIntyre or level with Bob McIntyre, and then just missed what was a largely makeable putt, and going down 17 and 18, you thought, well, probably there's either two scenarios here. We're either going into a playoff or McIntyre's done enough to win it, and I didn't think for a second that he was going to go birdie to finish, particularly on 18. But just, it's a true sign of how good a player he actually is standing over the 4-iron, pulling out and going, no, 2 irons to play here. And yeah, just the stones to step up and hit that putt was phenomenal. It was really phenomenal. And he was ecstatic at the end. And I don't think we've seen that sort of emotion from Rory for a little while, which was good to see. So yeah, it was an exciting finish. And I echo your sentiments. I would have been pumped for Bob McIntyre to win, but unfortunately not.
Remarkable as well. It only came a few holes after Big Shot Bob himself put an incredible shot into the 18th green for his 72nd hole. It was a fairway wood in his hands, a little cutty fairway wood that just remarkable. And you kind of thought, I don't know about you watching, but when you saw that shot from McIntyre, like, well, you'd have to think that's a victory, because the poetic moment of him, executing over the ball like that in his National Open to, give himself a birdie look and go in as a clubhouse leader, it's going to be hard to top. So for Rory to, as I say, pick up strokes in the penultimate and then the final hole of the tournament to secure that victory, I think is enormous in what it means for him. As you say, it was emotional. It was probably, I'd suggest, that the burden that's been carried over the past 18 months, coming to the fore, and what it means to him clearly to still compete at this level. And yeah, I just think there's a lot of things that the weekend probably revealed. I won't necessarily say that it's the very best links golf in Scotland, the Renaissance Club, far from it. But I think even just seeing players deal with not only the conditions on the ground, but the conditions in the air is incredibly revealing. And I'm sure it's caused you as many headaches as it has me when it comes to our tips for the preview podcast later in the week, because there's very little you can read into the rest of the form lines leading in from this season, because they just don't play golf like this. And the blustery conditions we saw at the Renaissance Club over the weekend are set to continue, because Royal Liverpool is breezy from what I've seen already so far in the early parts of the week.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, the Scottish Open's not actually that good a form reference for the Open Championship. I mean, you look back at the last handful of winners, and it doesn't actually bode particularly well. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those ones whether you I can see both sides of it, right? It's great that Rory's got out and he's got a victory, but has he gone a week too early? I don't know. I don't want to obviously speculate it. The Scottish Open's bounced around in terms of where it's sat in the schedule. So, yeah, I mean, only time will tell, but he's certainly one of, if not the most experienced player in the field in terms of playing that style of golf on the big stage, particularly. Anyway, I mean, I'm sure there are more who have played. I'm sure there are other players who have played more links golf than him, but he has played as much big golf on the big stage in the moment and step up and executed. So, going to hold him in good stead, I would suggest. Anyway.
All right, Drew, it's plenty to get through, not least of which this evening, as we've already said. First and foremost, we are going to listen to your chat with Micha. You were fortunate, as much as I was unfortunate, to miss the window, but we grabbed the great man when we could. He's obviously had a packed schedule leading into this tournament without giving anything away, because people will make up their own mind listening to it across the next 35 minutes. What did you take away from the chat with a guy that's become, a good friend as much as a guest, and someone whose journey we've thoroughly enjoyed, watching on from afar, and for some of us carrying the bag on occasion as part of it. But it's certainly an exciting week for him leading into his first ever major.
Well, second ever major, first ever Open Championship. But
of course.
He is absolutely excited. He's pumped. And there's no doubt that he is confident in his game. He said that he's been working on a few things and he's finally got his swing feeling good again. You'll hear in the chat that he talks about how rushed his entry into the PGA Championship was. So there's plenty to get through. But, I asked him, I said, what do you think your chances are? And he's quite bullish. So, enjoy the chat. It was a good one. There's going to be some great viewing for the Aussies back here. Plenty in the field, of course, Micha. So, enjoy the chat. Micha, firstly, welcome to the 19th tee once again. I mean, I've lost count of how many times this is, mate. If you're a regular, you are the third co-host of this show, well and truly now. But, mate, welcome. How's things? Where are you joining us from, and how have you been?
Yeah, everything's good. I'm in Hoylake at the moment.
Okay.
About 4-minute drive from Royal Liverpool.
Well, it's major week, mate, and then this is very exciting stuff. Your second major. We'll touch on the first one in a brief moment. I mean, what's the setup like there this week? Where are you? I assume an Airbnb of some sort, or what have you got? Like hire car? Are you walking to the club? What's the go?
Well, we've got an Airbnb till Saturday, and then I've got another Airbnb for when my family comes and all that on Saturday. I'm like a 4-minute drive, which is like just an uncomfortable walk, but it's not too bad. Like it's manageable. It's just scoping everything out like the week before and trying to make the the major week as less stress as possible.
How was it getting an Airbnb? Because I was listening to a few interviews and people were saying that around that area it was just nightmare to try and get any sort of accommodation. Was it difficult to get an Airbnb, or did the tournament help you out, or what's the go there?
No, so the tournament does send you like a link of like all these ACOMs that you can use, which is kind of like Airbnb. But the one I've got for next week, I got that like 3 months ago. Like
Yeah.
as soon as I knew I was into the Open, because I knew it was going to be expensive. But this one was actually not too bad. My manager's assistant booked me this one on Friday.
Lovely.
Like, so yeah, so it was pretty chill, and it's not too bad of a price. Like it's actually quite nice in here too. So, but next week, like the prices just go through the roof.
Yeah.
Like if we got this one, if we got probably this Airbnb for next week, it'll be probably 4 times the amount. Like, it's just silly.
Supply and demand. Supply and demand. I
Yeah.
guess that's how it works. What's the buzz around town like at the minute there in Hoylake? I mean, it's obviously got to be exciting when the Open comes to town for these areas. But what's the buzz like? Is it obviously we've seen the grandstands have been bumped in for ages, but what's it like around town at the minute? Is there a sense of energy in the area?
Not yet. I reckon once maybe Saturday hits, I think it'll be more chockers, and you'll know that there's a tournament going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty quiet. Like we drove through yesterday, and it was still everyone was still doing their normal thing and all that. So yeah. So I think once Saturday hits, I think there'll be a different vibe around here for sure.
What's it like being an Aussie over there at the minute? Of course, the Ashes. We're in the middle of the Ashes. I don't know if you've caught much. I don't even know if you're a cricket man at all. But what's it like being an Aussie over there at the minute? Because it feels like we're enemy number one in the world at the minute. It feels like we've killed Bambi.
Yeah, I followed followed enough to obviously know what's going on, but I don't know. I've been around a few English people over the last few days, and they're fine. So
not giving you any grief, which is good.
Yeah, not giving me any grief. Well, maybe behind my back, probably, but that's all right. I didn't do anything.
No, you haven't done anything. That's exactly right. Last time we spoke to you, you were on the cusp of heading overseas, and you had some really exciting stuff planned. And of course, it wasn't long after we spoke to you that it was announced that you were getting into some really exciting tournaments over in the US. I mean, can you kind of sum up how the last sort of maybe 6 to 8 weeks has been for you? Because you've played in some really exciting tournaments since or during that time, probably headlined by the US PGA Championship.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess making your PGA Tour debut as well would have been right up there. Can you maybe just wrap up the last sort of 6 to 7 to 8 weeks for us?
Yeah, sure. So after we had Korea, I came home for a few days, and then went to America. And so I had the week off, and then the Byron Nelson. That was it's so different. Well, I'll say that it's just very different to any tournament or any tour. I'd say it just like there's so many people there that it's just a circus. Like it's just mental. But in a good way. Like there's like the crowds always out there. Like that's what they're known for. They're just like they just love golf. They love talking shit. They love giving it to the players, and the players giving it back to the spectators. But sorry.
No, it is early in the morning. We should mention, you've joined us very kindly early, so you need your brew. What's the brew of choice that you've got there as well? It looks very dark, Micha.
Yeah, it's just straight coffee.
Gee, that's a man's coffee. My apologies. Please continue, please.
So yeah, and my first round on the PGA Tour was 66 with a hole out from like 120. So which was really cool. And then the second day, I actually played all right. Just made a couple bad decisions and a couple bad swings, and I made the cut on the number, which was cool. Like obviously I was 100% success rate on the PGA Tour, but that obviously changed after Memorial. But no, it was really cool. The guys have been out there for so long, and they either know the courses or they've been around America playing all those kind of type of golf courses. It's just a different style of golf to what I'm used to. I'm used to more link style. I'm used to running it up. I'm used to doing all that kind of stuff, where this was more flying it there, hitting it longer, all that kind of stuff. So I didn't really putt the best on Sunday, which kind of let me down a bit. I think I ended up finishing like 60 something. But I was maybe, I think, 4 shots outside the top 30. So like, I'd say that was a pretty like successful week. If you're going to say that I was going to do that my first PGA Tour event, I'd be like, yeah, sweet, I'll take that. The PGA was a weird one because I found out about the PGA the Monday of Byron Nelson. So it was such a quick turnaround, and I still remember I was speaking to Herbie about it a couple of days before I went to the Byron Nelson. So there was a category for the Order of Merit winners from Oz, Japan, South Africa, Asia, and the top 3 of the 4 get in, and I was number 4 because of the world ranking bullshit. So yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm probably not going to get in. I haven't really been told anything. That's whatever. So I had a practice round on the Monday, and I got back to the ACOM. I got this weird email saying like, you're in. And I'm like, I had to like really like look at it because I'm like, nah, someone's pulling my leg here, because I don't think they just give out like invites just like that. But apparently they do. Apparently they give out like, I think 2 or 3 like special invites. Apparently the Masters does it as well.
Right.
So yeah, I got one of those, and yeah, went from playing my first PGA Tour event to playing my first major in the space of 2 weeks, which was just fucking bizarre, man.
Yeah.
I was saying to Baz yesterday, I didn't really have the major nerves. I thought I would, but I actually didn't, just because I think everything came about so quickly that it just felt like another tournament. But also, I'm hitting balls next to Max Homer. I'm putting next to Scheffler. My locker's right next to Rory's and Phil's. Like, I'm like, all right, this is pretty cool. I didn't play the greatest. I hate it. I didn't hit it great the first. I hit it great the second day, and just that golf course was so hard. It really exposed you more than it should, which is obviously it's a major championship. That's what it's supposed to. It's not really. It's obviously about your ball striking, but it's about your mentality for the week and how you approach it. And I went from playing one of the easiest golf courses on the PGA Tour to then one of the hardest golf courses in America. So it was kind of a hard adjustment. But I had a week off. I went and spent time with Jeff Ovey in Scottsdale. Then I went to Orlando to practice with Curtis and Scriv and Ruff, and then I went to Memorial. Memorial was sick. Just a cool place. Just an awesome atmosphere. Just everything about it was just awesome. I try to soak in as much as I can. Not many people know. I actually woke up Thursday morning with like the stiffest neck. I actually couldn't rotate like that far to my right.
Right.
So I saw the physio twice before I played. So I saw him early in the morning, and I saw him about 4 hours later. Got that worked out. Somehow found a swing to make it not hurt, because like I've had this like injury like in the past where like it's like I think it's a facet joint. it just gets inflamed and literally all the muscles like tense up and you literally just can't move. Hitting, like compressing the golf ball makes it hurt. So if you hit an iron shot into the ground, it vibrates up to your neck. So and then also like in your follow through, because you stretch through your shoulder, it just hurts even more. So I'm trying to like find the swing that doesn't hurt, but it still hurts. I end up shooting like 3 over, and I missed a couple putts late, which if I shot even par or 1 over, it was actually like a really good round. I would have been inside to like the top 35 or 40 or something. And then the second round, I just got off to an awful start and just couldn't get it back. But I saw the physio that week, I think 7 times from Thursday to Sunday. It was it was not good. It was just like one of those things, like you can't control that kind of stuff that happens. Like, and then then I had 3 weeks off after that. So I just chilled out in Orlando for a bit, and then I came to British Masters, played like shit there. That was just awful. And then just working on a few things on my swing. So I spent a lot of time on the range, which I don't usually do. Just trying to work on some things that have gone to shit since I've been over here.
Yeah. And
then last week I found something in my swing that I feel comfortable with, and I think I feel like I couldn't have played any worse on the Sunday. I shot even par, and I think I came like 17th. So it feels like it's back on the rise, which is nice. And what a week to kind of feel like it's on the rise for the Open.
Were there any, you kind of touched on it there a little bit, but were there any sort of pinch yourself moments when you were over there? You talked about having your locker next to Rory and putting next to Scotty Scheffler, etc. But were there any of those sort of moments where you were like, holy shit, like I'm just a kid from Australia that's over here making the most of all the opportunities, and there's the number one player in the world? I mean, I want to get to John Rahm eventually, but I'm assuming you've seen John Rahm at some point, and I'm wondering, how you were even able to perform. Were you starstruck? I mean, what did any of that sort of stuff happen?
The one with Rahm, I actually haven't met him yet. It's just like everything's just been a little bit like inconvenient. So the PJ, I played with Cam on the Tuesday, and I think he was playing morning as well. So we'll wait for Memorial. He had the Pro-Am, I think, on the Wednesday, so he was barely out on the Tuesdays. So unfortunately, but I've spoken I had 2 missed cuts in a row. Obviously my manager, his manager are part of the same management group. I've actually spent a lot of time with Rahm's manager. And we've just chatted heaps and all that, which has been pretty cool, just to get to know all the guys on that management group as well. But any starstruck moment, I actually don't know. Actually can't. I can't really think of anything. I think actually maybe Jason Day. We're at Byron Nelson. I was just sitting having lunch, and he came over to me and introduced himself and stuff.
That's cool.
And was saying what great round, the first round, and well done in Oz and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like that. Yeah, I think that was probably the most starstruck I was overseas. I think. Oh, actually, no. Sorry, there was one part at the PGA, because Netflix are following around the PGA Tour for the next season. So because my locker was near Rory's, and they were shooting him at his locker, I had to wait. So I was just watching like all these cameramen and like Rory talking to, I think it was his agent or something, maybe his caddy. And I'm just standing there just like, I just want to get my shoes and get out of here. Can I do that?
I reckon if you said that
but
too, he
it was
would have
pretty
been
cool.
I reckon he would have been a good dude about it too and being like, yeah, mate, come on, like, just grab your shit.
Nah,
Like, I
it was
reckon he would have been
more
all
the
right.
camera guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
It was more the
Rory
camera
would have
guys.
been like, yeah,
Yeah.
no worries. The camera guy would have been like, just be like, fuck off,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah.
Leave me
So
alone.
that's all right. No, but
Um,
it was cool though. Like there's been some pretty cool stuff. And seeing Dan also as well win at British Masters, that was
Yes.
fucking awesome.
Yeah, the celebrations looked great on the green. Anyway, I'll do a bit of talking so you can drink your coffee for a couple of minutes.
That's all right.
You've I mean you've had I guess it's probably been a bit of a whirlwind the last 6 to 7 weeks as you just kind of ran through there. But even pre that, obviously back here in Australia, there's a lot of planning. Like a trip of this magnitude doesn't just come together overnight. There's a lot of planning involved, and I'm sure you've done a lot of it on the fly while you're over there as well, not knowing where things are going. But so I'm wondering to that end what you've learnt about yourself, because I think regular listeners to this show will know that we first chatted a few years ago, and when we spoke to you most recently, you'd said that you'd matured a lot and that you'd felt like you'd grown up and that your game had grown up. And I'm assuming that probably you feel that way even more so now, having gone on such a significant trip for 6, 7, 8 weeks, and probably still a lot more to come.
Yeah, I think there's been some growth over the last 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, like the planning stuff, it was hard because you just don't know, because I'm all on invites, so it's literally last minute kind of things, and which next year, for the rest of this year, will kind of be like that. I won't know what I'm playing until like either the week before and all that. Where kind of next year, it actually gets easier because I'll know what I'm playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll pretty much get every event but the Rolexes.
Sure.
If I stay in this category, if I finish inside the top 100 on the race to Dubai, I get category 10, which gets all but one, maybe Scottish. So it will get easier for me for next year, which is great. But yeah, also like just being able to go from not knowing if you have an event from, say, like you fly out on a Sunday or something like that, or the Saturday, to get into for the tournament week, like you find out on the Friday or Thursday. Like, lucky enough, I've got a good management group that like they can book all the flights, all the ACOM. They've got all the information there. They're ready to go. So that makes it a lot easier having them. If I didn't have them, it would be a nightmare. Like it'd be no good. But I do have them, which is great. And obviously, yeah, it should get easier. So it's like, I'd say the one thing I've probably learned is just how consistent you have to be.
Mm-hmm.
Not just golf wise, just everything. Your practice and all that, and even eating, all that kind of stuff. You just gotta, like, you're not at home anymore. You're not familiar with a lot of things. So just making that all consistent will then help you on the golf course, I think.
Let's talk Open Championship. That's, of course, the big one. I mean, first up, there's generally two sides to the fence that you consider: either the Open Championship, the greatest tournament in golf, or the Masters, the greatest tournament in golf. Which side do you fall on?
The Open.
Thank you. And
it's not even close. It's not even close. The Open's been going on for twice the time.
Thank you. Marshy's in the Masters at the minute, and I'm slowly converting him. But I'm also happy for him to stay on that side of the fence, because I've said the Open Championship from the very beginning. So, how have you prepared for the Open Championship? Obviously, we're doing this the 12th of July, so we've still got a week. But how are you preparing? How will you prepare for the Open Championship? And does it have a you've played in a major now. Does it have a different feel to it? Now that you've got a bit of a lead up into this one. Last one, you just said you were rushed in, but does it have a bit of a different feel about it, and how you're preparing for it?
So so the PJ was obviously a weird one because I found out the week before, and I was playing a tournament the week before. So
Yeah.
I had to get in Monday morning, go straight to the course, and then play. Well, I think I played 9 late, and then I played 18 Tuesday and then 9 on Wednesday. Where majors are, the practice rounds are just brutal. Like if you play 18 at 6.5 hours,
Yeah.
no bullshit.
And that'd
So
be
with
eating
this
you
week,
up too. That would be eating you up. You
yeah,
personally, I'm talking about.
yeah, it's annoying. So this week, I played yesterday. I played 18 yesterday with Baz. I think I want to try and play. I want to try and play holes every day.
Mhm.
Not 18. Might play 6. We might play whatever, a few holes. Just kind of get familiar of around the greens. Hi, Josh. Sorry, that's Josh. Just getting familiar with the golf course. So when the major week does come in, everyone's doing all that rushing, going and doing all the unnecessary. It's necessary but unnecessary chipping around the greens and hitting extra shots and all that, which those rounds do take forever. So I'm going to be playing potentially 9-9-9 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with some of the boys. Hopefully I can potentially team up with Ram to play 9 and see if we can make that happen, because I did want to make that happen, and my manager did kind of promise me, but I won't say promise. And yeah, kind of just play with anyone that who is a big name. So then once I go and play on Thursday, all those nerves are kind of gone, which I'm sure they won't be. But yeah, just see yesterday, me and Baz were just hitting just the most ridiculous shots around the greens. I think I posted one yesterday where I ran one around the bunker.
Yeah.
Those shots you just don't see anywhere else, but links golf. So just getting used to that, and I think having a week to do that, I think is probably the best prep you can get, and then tee it up Thursday and just absolutely send it.
How's the course looking? Obviously, we're a week out now. How's the course kind of looking? How's it playing? What have you thought of it personally? All that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's quite green at the moment. They've had a lot of rain over the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks. For a while there, it was actually proper brown, when Tiger won. It was really firm. But they've had a shitload of rain over the last 4 weeks, which has made the course a lot longer. You can stop balls on the greens. The rough is juicy as it wasn't apparently it wasn't even that high. Now it's crazy high. It's brutal. It's such a long golf course. I think it's 6-7 meters.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah, and you have to hit it straight. You can probably get away with some drives in the rough, but you have to hit it straight. And then you got pop bunkers and all that. You just got to be. You got to be aggressive enough but smart at the same time. And I think there's going to be a lot of I think it's going to be more up to your ball striking than your short game. And obviously, your the putting's going to be important, but I think it's more if whoever ball strikes it the best will be up there.
Well, that was going to be the question I was going to ask you. What sort of player is going to win it? And you've answered it brilliantly there, the one about ball striking. But I guess
look at the last two winners.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Tiger and Rory, and then it and they've made some new tees as well. So
Okay.
when when Tiger won it, when it was really firm, like he didn't hit drive, or he maybe hit one driver or something like that. Where there's a lot of like longer tees now, which I think if it was firm with the ball now than what it was, I think you could probably do that. But there's some holes where like me and Baz hit irons yesterday, and like we like just made the fairway.
Yeah,
So
right.
like, no, yeah, it's a lot. I think it's a lot longer than what it was. What was it? 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Even from I think when Raw, I think they added a lot of like quite a bit of length to. So they changed the routing. So if people are watching the Open from 2014, the routing is a little bit different. So 16, 17, 18 used to be par five, par four, then a par five, and both quite reachable. So 16 was probably maybe like 580, 570 straight downwind.
Mm-hmm.
And I think 18 was very similar. I think maybe a little bit shorter, maybe 540 or 550. The 16th is now 630, and the 18th is like 610, and
Yeah,
the
right.
18th is OB both sides, and it's like stupid tight, like from the tee. Like I think if it plays downwind, I think a lot of guys are going to be hitting 3-wood off the tee just because they'll run into the bunkers on the left. But it is like they've added some length, and they've added a few new tees to a few other holes, but there's also one new hole as well.
Okay.
So they built a par 3 behind the old 17th green. It's like it goes back to the water,
Okay.
and this green is fucking mental. Like it literally, it's like a big upside down like bowl.
Yeah,
So like
right.
if you miss either side of it, it's like literally going either side. It's there's going to be drama. 100% there's going to be drama on that hole, and it's 120 meters
Right.
to the mid. Yeah, to
Little
like
wedge.
I think. Oh, actually, no, maybe 130 meters to a middle pin,
Right.
and
How
it's
do
going to be
you
blown straight.
Yeah, it will, and it's only a little. I guess it's probably a wedge, maybe a little bit more if the
Mm,
wind's blowing. But
yeah.
how do you think it fits your game personally? Because I remember obviously talking to you, and you were talking that you like shaping shots and you like being able to see the ball go different ways and essentially be quite creative in the way that you play. How do you think this course is going to set up for your game this week, and maybe more broadly, what are your expectations for the week?
Um, think I put a new driver in play last
Okay.
week. It's a little bit longer, so it will go a little bit wider, but I think I need to have that. I think I need to have that on a string, and I think my irons at the moment they feel pretty good. I think I can. I feel like I can play pretty well this week.
Yeah.
If I feel like if I do everything solid, I don't feel like I have to do anything amazing. I feel like I can play. I can potentially compete.
Yep.
Obviously, if everything's on, everything's on. Um, yeah, it's a hard one because we've only played it once, so
Yep.
it's hard to kind of really. I think, yeah, you just have. I think we just have to be like aggressive, but also smart at the same time. With either going at pins, hitting it to 30 feet is actually not that bad.
Yep.
Going to some pins, like the greens are so good here, and they're so true. Like there's gonna be a lot of putts hold. It's just if the wind gets up on those greens, it's gonna be quite brutal. But yeah, like I feel like I'm hitting it really good. Like from last week and the work I did over the weekend at British Masters, I feel like I can compete.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, and like I say, I think courses like this that demand a bit of creativity and making pars not not the end of the world. It's not bad, right? Like we often talk about, oh shit, there not enough birdies made, but mate, walking away with a par on some of these difficult holes is going to be one of the most important things. But you've been generous with your time this morning, and we'll let you finish your coffee. It's probably an iced coffee about now, but
That's all right. It's actually not too bad.
Who's on the bag? What's the bag situation? Who have you roped in?
So I've got Benji Brewer, who is who caddies on the Ladies European Tour.
Yes.
Who is engaged, so he could be married. Engaged to Whitney Hillier.
Yes, I don't believe they're married just yet, but
yes,
there you go.
I think they did. I'm pretty sure they're definitely engaged though.
They are. That's a good get, mate.
Yeah. So he's been around here heaps, and he knows the course quite well. So, and his experience as well. I think he caddied a Pebble. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So like from one major to I think they've got a tournament this week, and then into another major. Like nothing's gonna be too dissimilar to him. So like, yeah, having someone that's been there and it's comfortable with it, get ready to go.
Yeah. Last question for you. What's your dream pairing for the first day? You get the tee sheets come out, the times are on there, D Micheluzzi. What are the other three? I reckon one of them's probably going to be J Rahm. Who else is on the dream tee on the dream grouping there day one?
I'll probably shit myself, so probably not Rahm. I reckon. Oh, who's playing this week?
Everyone will be jetting in soon, I'd suggest.
Yeah, I would say someone familiar. I reckon maybe like a. So maybe. This is a good question.
I was thinking that. I was like, someone like, obviously, you get paired with John Rahm in the first round. And it's holy shit. But I was like, you get paired with someone like Baz. That's going to go wonders for you. It's just two of the boys going out. But it'd be like playing another practice round, except it's.
Yeah, I reckon we go. Nah, you've stumped me, man.
All right, we'll go John. We'll go John Rahm. I'm going to put words in your mouth. John.
All right, what all the people listening wants to hear? Rahm and Rory.
Yeah, there you go. Rory would be very cool.
Which definitely won't happen, but that's all right.
I definitely forgot about Rory. No, mate, you've been great to join us again, and appreciate you jumping on the show for the upteenth time, and wish you the very best of luck at Hoy Lake. This will come out next week, I'd suggest. We're recording on the 12th, as I said, but best of luck for the Open Championship. I'll be tuning in the wee hours of the morning, flicking between the Ashes and the Open Championship for sure, mate. But go well over there, and hopefully you're striping them and achieve everything that you want to. So thanks again, mate.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Cracking chat, Drew. He's always entertaining. I think it's the one thing you can guarantee when you get on, whether it's the Zoom call or the phone with Micha, is you'll walk away with a smile on your face. As I am now, having listened to it for the first time. And yeah, I couldn't be more happy for the bloke that he's there at a tournament, which you heard he clearly loves and has grown up loving. What it must mean to him to be playing in it for the first time. And I'm sure it's a milestone that he'll remember for a long time. So one of our favourites, a part of a large Aussie contingent, as you said there before we got into it, and we'll run through the full list of Aussies in the field, as well as all of our usual bits and bobs in our preview episode coming your way a little later this week. We turn our attention now to Mr. Gary Lisbon. We said at the very top of this episode, one of the best in the business globally when it comes to golf photography. If you don't follow him on Instagram, you're missing a trick, because it's one of my favourite things as I scroll through the feed. Really fills the cup when I go past one of Gary's photos from anywhere in the world. He's recently spent a bit of time at Royal Liverpool, and he's been dropping bits and pieces across his feed in the last week leading into the tournament. So we thought, what better time to have the man on to give his perspective of what shapes as a great golf course leading into the 151st Open Championship at Royal Liverpool. So here's Gary Lisbon. Gary, it's great to have your company once again on the 19th tee. An unbelievable venue we are this week for the 151st Open Championship. I suppose where I wanted to start is just from your perspective as a golf fan, because obviously you're one of the very best in the business when it comes to shooting courses through the lens, but you're an incredible, I suppose, fan of the game as well, a player yourself. So what about the property struck you? What kind of stuck with you from a golf fan perspective when you spent a bit of time there?
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. Thanks, Nathan. Hoylake's an interesting proposition. It's probably not the most well-known open venue, and it's probably not the most exciting open venue in terms of the general topography. But what it makes up for with flatness over quite a few of the holes is more than made up for with some interesting, quirky things like internal out of bounds and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a very interesting tournament. It's going to be an exciting tournament. I think the Open generally is known as being Scottish golf. Great, let's hold an Open at St Andrews, and England doesn't really get its fair share of kudos. And I think golf in England, links golf in England, is fantastic. I got a fuller appreciation of that last year when we visited a whole bunch of courses, and Hoylake was one that I'd visited previously, never really got or understood or enjoyed, and going back there last year, really changed my whole perspective on things.
Do you think that that'll resonate with some of the players too? I mean, obviously there's a number of guys who are making either their Open Championship debut or have not played at Hoylake previously. I mean, there's so many guys that are in the top end of the betting markets that are nearly the favourites that haven't played at Hoylake or played an Open Championship. Do you think the guys that have played there, your Rorys of the world, for example, spring to mind, do you think having been there and played will have a bigger impact on them this time around and give them a benefit almost?
Yeah, I think certainly. It's we remember when Tiger won there, and didn't use. I think he used a driver maybe once or twice during the whole 72 holes, and it is very much a position golf course. You want to hit fairways, and that gives you a chance of hitting greens and then making some putts. So the conditions aren't as dry as they were. I think when Tiger won, certainly a lot greener and a lot wetter. They've had a bit of rain over there in England, so that's going to make the necessity of hitting fairways even greater. Because I think if you're in that rough, the long rough, as we sort of saw with the Scottish Open at Renaissance Club, it's going to make extricating the ball quite difficult. So, do players who have played there before have an advantage? Yeah, I think definitely. Certainly know your angles, driving angles off the tees, and where not to miss it. There's some interesting new elements, being the new 17th hole that no doubt you want to talk about. So I think it will definitely favour those that have been there in the past. But let's see what happens. I mean, Rory's in good form, isn't he?
we were just talking about that and whether he maybe went a week too early with winning the Scottish Open, which is where I'm falling personally. I'll throw my hand up. But I wonder, Gary, I mean, you've seen the course from probably more angles than anyone has seen it. You've seen it from the bird's eye view, and I'm sure there are probably players out there who utilize your photography to prepare for golf tournaments. How much creativity is involved in shot making at Royal Liverpool at Hoylake there? Because it's often something that we talk about with links golf that, you have to be creative. You have to be able to see shots that other people can't see to win. Is that the case with Hoylake? Because as you said at the top, it's maybe not one of the ones that gets the most love, and we always talk about St Andrews and other courses that get the Open Championship. So how much sort of creativity do you think is going to be required at Hoylake come these next 4 days?
Yeah, I think anytime you play a links course that generally has, say, firmer fairways and is not really target golf, as you might see in the US, heavily watered fairways, heavily watered greens, then your creativity really can come into it, and you can benefit from that, certainly. I think if players are missing greens, which no doubt they will miss greens, then their ability to get the ball up and down won't necessarily be played through the air. It'll often be played along the ground. And from playing it last year and playing it quite well, shall I say, for 17 of the 18 holes, you know where not to miss it. And if you do miss it in those bad spots, it's testing. It's double bogey territory quite easily.
What was the hole? Just out of curiosity, that
Oh,
failed you, Gary.
so depressing, Kieran. I was going along really well. I think I was one under par, coming up to the 15th hole, which is the little I, the par three, the new hole that's actually playing as 17 for the Open.
Mm-hmm.
And I negotiated that hole with a par. So I'm thinking this is fine. And then the members course then plays their 16th hole actually is the 18th hole for the Open. So it's got the outer bounds of the practice fairway down the right. It's got some tiny little fairway bunkers down the left. And of course, I hit in one fairway bunker into another fairway bunker, out onto the fairway a few more shots later, and I walked off, I think, with a 9. So quite depressing, but golf's an 18-hole game, isn't it? Not 17 holes, which is why you'll see me taking photos rather than being on any pro tour.
Gary, I'm quite curious. You mentioned that your perspective changed entirely going back last year than your first visit there, and I'm curious to know, do you think that is more the product of the changes that had been made to the course? I mean, I heard a great chat with Martin Ebert, who's obviously done the work there in rerouting and changing a number of the holes. Or do you think it's more to do with the natural, I suppose, cadence of going back to a place for a second time and just seeing it differently? Because I also heard another great chat with Joe McDonnell, who does great work with OCM Golf, and Joe's a member at Royal Liverpool, and he, in that interview, he said that it's the type of place that you play it 3 times and you'll have an entirely or a vastly different experience. So I wonder if your shift in perspective is more to do with the physical changes to the course, or maybe just coming at it with different eyes the second time around.
I think it was probably the fact that it was 12 degrees, raining sideways, wind was blowing, that made it quite a challenging test of golf. But obviously, when you do, as Joe mentioned, when you do play any course multiple times, you get a fuller appreciation of the subtleties, the nuances of the design. So, as I said, the first time I played it, wet, awful, cold conditions. Last year, firmer, dry conditions, quite warm. So it was certainly easy to keep the ball on the fairway. In terms of the design changes, I don't really recall, other than the 15th hole, the little par 3 little I can't really say I know. I can't recall many of the other changes that Mackenzie Ebert have done, but they do good stuff, and they've done good stuff here and a bunch of other open rotor courses.
Let's talk about, and I'm always conscious because it is one of these courses where the route for the Open is not what day-to-day members play. So I think for the benefit of our listeners, not confusing the topic, we'll talk in Open Championship course speak. But the run home, 17, you've already kind of mentioned, is that devilishly short hole, and then 18 presents its own challenges. Let's talk about the short hole first. It seems to be more and more in vogue, the short par 3. We saw a fantastic challenge in that respect at the North Course at the LA Country Club and the US Open most recently. Firstly, from your perspective, just playing it, what questions does it ask? Because I always personally find incredibly intimidating, the short par 3. It seems so simple to look at, but so many ways in which you can go wrong.
It's so true. There's an expectation, isn't there, when a par 3 plays 100, 110 yards or meters, that, boy, this is a flick wedge onto the green. You walk off with two putt par. But certainly places like, let's say, TPC Sawgrass with the 17th hole there, and I think it was 15th at LACC and 17 here. It's set up for drama, and I think that's certainly what they're trying to do. They've got a whole bunch of grandstands around that particular hole. So they're looking for drama to happen, and they believe it will happen on that particular hole. You could make anything from a birdie, or even a hole in one, really, to something like a double or triple bogey. Whether you're in the bunkers short, whether you fly the green and you're through the back, you can almost go out of bounds, or even missing left and right. So it's scary for a whole bunch of reasons. And I think partly, as you were saying, because there's the expectation on a short hole that you should be conquering that short hole. Certainly not the case. And then you add a bit of wind coming off the water, because the prevailing wind will be generally into the face, and there's just a whole lot of challenge there. So that's going to be tough. And then 18, I think it's been extended back about 560, 570 yards. It's got the internal out of bounds down the right-hand side. They're going to favour the left, but then you miss the fairway left, you're in some long rough, and then extricating yourself out of that and getting down towards the green where it pinches in quite nicely. The out of bounds pinches in quite nicely. So it's going to be a testing finish, certainly.
It was interesting in that chat with Martin Ebert. He said one of the, I suppose, requests of the club came out of maybe a perceived criticism in 2014 that didn't necessarily ask enough questions coming down the stretch. And you certainly get the sense that it will, because I'm not to cast aspersions at the Renaissance Club, but someone, seeing Rory go birdie on the weekend to come over the top of Robert McIntyre and win the Scottish Open. If you're chasing birdie in the final 2 holes to win the tournament on Sunday at Royal Liverpool, it's a very scary proposition.
Well, it's scary, and if it comes off, you're a hero. But if it doesn't, you've dropped from second place to maybe 5th or 6th or 7th place, and with that comes losing a fair bit of money, doesn't it? So I think you can see possible eagles coming on the 18th hole, but equally doubles and triples. So time will tell, and I think conditions are going to have a lot to do with that. I'm not quite sure what the forecast has been, but chatting to some of my English buddies, they've had a fair bit of rain in recent times.
Yeah, we
know that from watching the Ashes as well.
Yeah, well, I was. Don't worry, Gary. I've been keeping a close eye on it, because the way that the English are playing at the moment, I'm a little bit worried about the 4th test. So I'm playing the rain card, mate. But there is going to be a bit of rain around come Sunday, so we could be in for some carnage, and the wind will be up as well. To that end, what do you think the winning score is going to be? I mean, it's so difficult to predict every time, but we've got this infatuation that we want it to be 1 over par or 3 under par, but it never seems to happen with the modern game. I mean, you've seen the property more than most, and from more angles, as I said, and understand it. Can you give us maybe an indication of what you think that winning score might look like?
It is solely weather dependent.
Yeah,
you get 4 days that blow with a bit of rain, and it will probably sit, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 under par. You get 4 days of really good conditions, and you could be up around where Rory was at Scottish Open, sort of 15 under par. So the par 5s, I think, a number of them are genuine eagle chances. I know that the normal 8th, which is playing as the 10th, is reverted back to a par 4, but there's some eagle chances out there.
Is there a favourite part of the property for you, mate? Because I mean, you must walk around these places just generally, right? Like, you must walk around these places, and certain areas capture you more than most. Is there a part of Royal Liverpool that you're certainly taken by?
I think so, and I think Nathan, it's really the holes that are along that dune line, which is on the edge of the property, and they're probably the most interesting holes. They have the most change in elevation and dips and hollows, and just a nice feeling course, as opposed to the generally flatter land that on first glance could be seen as a little bit boring. So definitely that stretch that's probably going to play 10, 11, 12, 13, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and then 17. They're the holes that are sort of along that dune line. So they'll be great through there. But having said that, the 3rd hole, which is the members' opening hole, with the, again, internal out of bounds, which is an unusual situation, hugging that whole right-hand side, that's scary as well. And I reckon we'll see some people hit out of bounds there, whether it's off the tee or even the approach shot, depending on what the wind's doing.
It's going to be exciting nonetheless, I think. The Open Championship, well, it's a good question. Marshy, I mean, I'm going to throw you under the bus here. He's in the Masters camp. He loves the Masters. That's his tournament. I'm an Open Championship. Where are you, Gary?
Hands down, Open Championship. hands down.
2-1. It stays 2-1.
It's just pure golf. I mean, Augusta is Augusta, and you don't quite have anything like it. It's almost too perfect, and I've been fortunate. I've been there once, and you're in awe, and you're gazing around and getting all excited. But the Open for me is the one that can just throw up anything. Fortunes can change in an instant, particularly with bunkering. You get in you get in a bunker like the Road Hole bunker, or plenty of other bunkers out there on the open courses, and you may not get out for a couple of shots. I think I remember the postage stamp hole at Troon, and Rory in a practice round was sort of playing. It took about 5 or 6 to get out of the right-hand bunker. Myself on that left-hand bunker of the postage stamp that's known as the coffin bunker, and I just about died in there. I think I took about four to get out of there. So for me, it's very much the Open. The Open is the event. Absolutely love it.
I think
four shots is normal for our golf, Marshy. Just any normal bunkers.
Yeah, exactly right. And I might just interject momentarily to somewhat defend myself. I think as I age, I am softening, and I kind of did flag that in the introduction here that it's an opinion that was fervent when we started this podcast, the better part of 5 years ago, and it's softening. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Gary, in the sense of growing up and watching Augusta National on television as a young kid, essentially like learning the game. It is this mythical place, and I can imagine it's the same as when you walk through the gates and drive down Magnolia Lane and walk around the course. It is manicured to within an inch of itself, which is great for 4 days of the year, but it's only really like that for about 14 days out of 365, right? It gets up for the tournament. And I think what I've come to appreciate from the Open Championship and by extension links golf is that these courses are really a reflection. It's like the courses fit into the land and not the other way around. And the courses are an extension or a reflection of the little towns that they find themselves in and the beating heart. Whereas nothing in Augusta, Georgia looks like Augusta National, if that makes sense. I think that's where, as I age, I certainly have come to soften that opinion a lot more, because it is pure to what you say. It's pure golf. It's golf at its most pure form.
It is, and you see creativity in shot making that we just absolutely love. It's not just that through the air golf; it's the bump and run stuff. It's really being creative in the way that you manufacture your shots to get as close to the hole as possible. I'll give you one point. The Masters, the thing the US Masters and generally any of the US majors on the East Coast have going for them is the time zone. Because we wake up in the morning at 5 a.m. and we've done this for 20, 30 years, haven't we? And that Masters time, you wake up, you watch the Masters from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. You then go out all inspired and try and do it yourself, and it works for about a hole or two. So the time zone is great. The Open Championship's a bit more challenging because it's generally maybe a 9 p.m. start time through at about 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. So I've had many nights over the years watching our Mr. Norman mounting charges at the Open, 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. in the morning. Troon comes to mind, I think, when he birdied the first maybe 7 holes in a row, I think, on that final round, and then lost in that ill-fated playoff with Grady and Calcavecchia. So the time zone does it for me in terms of the Masters. I prefer that time zone. But in terms of the pureness of the golf, it's the Open Championship.
That's only if you're on the East Coast. Over here in Perth, we're pretty good. I'm happy for the Open Championship. I tell you what, the last few weeks I've been walking into work like an absolute zombie because I've been watching cricket until 2 a.m. It's been perfect for me. But Masters, on the other hand, don't get much of it. Final question, mate. Who wins? We always love to get a tip from our guests. Who do you think's going to be the winner? I mean, there's so many great chances, and really, I mean, if the wind blows and the weather comes in on Sunday, if you're a couple back, you're still in with a red hot go.
Who's going to win? Who do I want to win?
Both. You can give us both. We do that. Both. That's what we do in our preview. Who do you want to win, and who do you think will win?
Yeah, I'd love Cam Smith to go back to back. We were there watching every step of the way. We walked the final round with him last year, and it was just exceptional what he did and how focused he was. Obviously, a lot of things have happened in the 12 months since, but he's striking some good form. In terms of the other Aussies, he might get a roughie here and there. Minwoo Lee, I thought he'd do better in the Scottish Open than he did, given he's a previous winner there. He can just about do anything, just in terms of the distance he hits the ball. In terms of Rory's form heading into the Open now is good. He's won in Scotland. He's won at Liverpool before, so I think he's a possibility. Someone like a Scotty Scheffler, you can never discount down him. And then wouldn't it be wonderful to have a Tommy Fleetwood English winner win the Open? That'd be fantastic also.
Yes.
So I think probably more so those players than any of the European players. But let's see how wrong I am in 5 or 6 days' time.
Time will tell, Gary. Time will tell. Two brief ones from me just to finish up. You spent time there, as we said, 12 months ago. What was your impression of how proud the membership are to be hosting this tournament this week? Because as we know, the nature of the open rotor, as you know, well ahead of time of when it's coming to your backyard. And, you know, the scale of these tournaments, preparation really does start 12 months out to get the place ready to host, a tournament of such magnitude. So I'm sure even a year ago, there would have been a buzz around the membership of what it was going to be like to have, you know, the jewel and the crown return to Hoylake.
Oh, there's so much history there, isn't there, with the Open? It's been held a number of, I don't know how many off the top of my head, but obviously Peter Thompson won the Open there. And as you walk into the golfers' arrival point at Hoylake, they've got big murals on the wall that showcase and outline all of the winners of the Open Championship. And that's something that's been followed by a number of other clubs around the world, including in Australia. So they're a very proud membership, very stately clubhouse, amazing trophies and artwork on walls, and it just smells and oozes hundreds of years of history and tradition. So I think they're very, very proud. They are probably like any course that has members. They don't want the course to be beaten up completely by the pros. So they'll be hoping that the wind blows, the rain comes in, and the scores remain modest. So that's what I think there.
And just finally, and I'm sorry to hit you with a philosophical one at the end. It may not be an easy answer to articulate, but I'm really interested in your perspective of what makes links golf so romantic in our eyes. Because I think, you know, you've photographed courses all around the world, different continents, different countries, different formats, whether it's woodlands golf, desert golf. There's just something about it, isn't there? Like, there's not too many venues that we see week in, week out on the PGA Tour. We might like some of them to look at, but they don't hit us, you know, in our bones, like watching, you know, the Open Championship does on a links course. What do you think it is about links golf that we find so romantic?
Well, for me, with my photographic eyes, it's the 4:30 a.m. timelines where the sun is just starting to rise, and you're seeing bumps and dips and hollows, and it just comes alive, and it doesn't look manufactured. It looks completely natural. And we spoke about that earlier, that maybe the Masters is something that's not normal. I think with any kind of links golf, genuine links golf, it's normal. It's just the terrain as it has been for hundreds of years. I think also there's creativity in shot making. There's complete unfairness in links golf. The number of times you've hit what you think is a fantastic tee shot, only to come up and find that it's rolled into a bunker that you can only hit out sideways or backwards. How depressing is that? You've hit the best shot of your life and you have to hit out backwards. So for all of those reasons, it's just it's an alluring, it's an exciting landscape.
Tell you what, for a question without notice, you articulated it pretty bloody well, Gary. Well done. Look, it's been an absolute pleasure, as it always is, to get your insight into these places. You've got one of the best jobs in the world, I think, to be able to travel around the globe and be as intimate with a property as you are, as capturing it through the lens. So we really appreciate your insights here. We've certainly appreciated the insights via your Instagram feed, and that will continue into the start of the tournament. And we really hope you enjoy the 4 days as much as we do, and look forward to chatting again soon into the future, Gary. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Kieran. Thanks, Nathan. Let's see how incorrect I was with the winner and the winning score.